I'd like to welcome back Denise Guckert. Welcome, Denise, and you are now the presenter. Welcome.
Thanks for everyone for coming back. I see that Vicki is new, and we have 3 folks today. Oh, Dashell is here, Mark and Ashley. Okay. I did get an email from someone who couldn't attend, but hopefully they'll see part 2. We're going to start today by doing a quick review of some of the main points from our last week's presentation. This is our agenda for today, the short review. We're going to look at some Google Sites pros and cons for the new Google Sites. Some of you had been using the classic sites, and I wanted to go over some differences with you. The phases of implementation I want to review with you, because so many times we just jump in and do technology with our students without really thinking about it. So especially when you're using new technology and a new technique or strategy such as portfolios, you really need to do the groundwork first. So plan and prepare, then do a student offline introduction, and then a student online introduction. And then we talk about ePortfolio maintenance and how to give feedback. And I will be adding some information that I didn't give you about giving feedback to students. I'm also adding information for you today, some ideas for self-reflection that we didn't do last week. Right there I have some Google Site resources, and I also put in some additional ePortfolio samples or ideas. And then I have the how-to demos, and I am going to share my screen and actually go through how to duplicate the site that I have shared with you. And Vicki, I'll share the site with you. I will need your Gmail address or your Google account. If you would type it in, we can take it off of there and I can share it. I've shared it with everyone else. And the first step is to take my template. If you're not comfortable with Google Sites, you can just use the template I created, and then you can modify it, and then you would share it to your students and they can duplicate it. I know Ashley's already done that. Thank you. I can see email in there. Is that Vicki's? And I have Dashell. Excellent. Okay, well, I'll be sharing that later today. Okay, so I'm going to go through some live demos. I decided not to do, there's some good tutorials, but Anne-Marie says sometimes we have issues with the videos on these webinars, so I'll just do it myself, okay? These are some main points I wanted to review. There is a lot of text on this page, but it's pretty much what we talked about last week. Most classroom e-portfolios are learning portfolios. Those are portfolios that show development over time. Or they might be showcase portfolios that document the end outcomes with best of best products. Many times students start with learning portfolios, and then by the end of the year they are comfortable with modifying it to turn it into a showcase. So they could start with learning and turning it into a showcase towards the end. Most e-portfolios that are public on the internet are actually showcase portfolios. Either they're incomplete and nobody ever took them down, or they're showcase best of the best, turn in for usually a grade type of portfolio. Or they could be portfolios for potential employers or for potential college admissions. Though rarely do you find those, because usually they're more private. For example, for a potential employer, probably people are sharing it to the employers that they want to share their information with. Same with colleges. It might have personal information, things like that. I have that on down on the slide. I talk about personal information. An essential element of classroom e-portfolios is the student reflections. The reflections is the piece of a portfolio, whether it's online or offline, that truly helps students learn how to assess their own learning. And that's something we need to always try to teach our students to make them lifelong learners. Classroom learning e-portfolios typically have samples of student work over time, plus the reflection. So they may not be the perfect draft It could be their first draft, and then later they could replace it with their final. Or they could have both of them, which I like actually to show progress over time. Personal information like address and telephone number really should not appear online, even in a classroom environment that you protected, because you don't even want to share that with other classmates. If a student's only sharing something with you, they could put personal information, but I just would tell them to share it separately and not as part of their website or their Google site. Students will need, as teachers do too, a free Gmail or a Google account to create ePortfolios with Google Sites. A Google account allows you to use your own email address to get an account that you can use to use Google products. Any questions before I move on?
I don't see any questions, Denise. I think we're good. Everybody just put questions, and then when we get to a stopping point, we can, or remember to raise your hand. It's a small enough group if you have a question.
Okay. Right here, I just added some more portfolio resources for you. It's stuff that I found. I love this mythology storybooks with student reflections. This is a lady that teaches, I think Ohio University, it says OU, and she teaches English at the college level and has her students write, but they write their own stories. It's like creative writing, but it's based on readings they've done in the class from mythology, and they do reflections to talk about the process they used to develop their storylines, and they're super entertaining. There's one on monsters that I really liked. You can go and see if you like, but they are creative stories. I'm not going to go today there, but I encourage you to look at that. It's fun, and if you have advanced students, you might have them read those. It is fairly advanced writing. Putting together a career pathway ePortfolio is a really nice site here. And if you have your iPhone with you, you can put your camera on that link. This is that little square box. It's called a QR code. And your camera will come up with the link, the website link, and you just click with your thumb and you can go there. If you have an Android phone, you have to use your QR code reader or scanner that you've downloaded. Also, if you're on your computer, you could go and just click right now on the short link that has been put here for you. Okay? You see that link? And very quickly, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just bring that up. To share my screen, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting which button it was. Anne-Marie?
Go down to the bottom.
I think I got it. Yeah, it's okay. Here we go. Google Chrome. And I have right now Google Sites up, but I'm going to go ahead and put this up for you. Okay? What I like about this, I think it's real applicable to what we're doing with our students. This is, somebody just called it stable transitions, but it's a 4-step process to do portfolios for career transition. It's not an ePortfolio, but it talks about information to put in a portfolio. Well, actually it is an ePortfolio. They just don't call it that because it says electronic collection. It talks about the process. It talks about a process that's CROCS, which is collection, reflection, organization, and selection. And collection, and it has some really nice questions you might want to use with students. And then it says stay tuned for step 2. And I don't, unfortunately she doesn't like link direct. Oh yeah, she does right up here. I knew I had gone to it. At the very top you see a link, and when you go to step 2, she talks about the reflection. She gives you lots of sample questions, okay, about the reflections. When you go to step 3, she will talk about your organization and the order you want to use, if it's chronological or thematic. And then she talks about a star format that's used often for like career or employers or school, that talks about your skills, your training, your accomplishments, and your references. Again, when you're putting in references, you might want to include a name and an email and a title, but do not include a personal phone number or address. You might be able to include business information. But remember, this stuff might be shared, and you don't want to get your references upset because people are contacting them. And then story is really cool. I like that she gives these acronyms that people can use. She talks about a story format that's strengths, topics, optimal conditions, relationships, and yes, the sweet spot. So I just really like that to help you if you are, working on any kind of portfolio, really. The last one is the selection for presentation. And this is super important on a showcase because your audience is the most important factor. When you're doing a learning portfolio, you as a student and your teacher are the audience. When you're doing a showcase, it might be your teacher, but it might be a potential employer. It might be college admissions. And so you have to kind of think about that. And it's really good because you could actually teach this in the context of literature skills with the content standards, because that is one of them, is understanding your audience and identifying audience. So anyhow, so final portfolio tips are at the very bottom. So I really like that. I wanted to share it with you as a great resource. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, let me talk about the pros and cons of Google Sites. The pros are it's really much easier as far as the interface. It's incredibly drag and drop. Google is working to incorporate more features of their classic site by 2020. By 2020, Google Sites, the classic sites, is expected to close, so people will have to basically transfer, upgrade their old sites to the new formats. There are a lot fewer options. That's why it's easier. You can't customize that much. You cannot create a template that anyone can copy. Like if I wanted to create something that anybody on the web can go and just grab and use for Google Sites as a template, I could do that in Classic, and you cannot do that in the new Google Sites. That is a disadvantage, but it's a workaround to be able to duplicate the site. You cannot upload files directly from your computer except for images. So students really need to learn to work with their Google Drive and not with their computer. I'm thinking possibly in the future they may be incorporating more upload from the computer, but right now you can only do images. Users in the past with the old classic sites, you could have a little drop box where your students or other people could actually drop files if you had permissions, if you gave them permissions. And it was more like a learning content management program, and they have taken that ability off. Also, you used to have a revision history, just like on all Google Docs, and they've taken that off. There's not an automatic sitemap. I used to enjoy that, and you could have the sitemap where you'd see the layout of the entire site immediately, and you can't do that either. So those are some cons. Anyhow, but the verdict for me is for working with students in ePortfolios, the pros outweighs the cons, because the classic Google Sites is powerful, but it was kind of clunky. It took a long time for me to figure out how to use it. I did, and it is very powerful, but most students would be very difficult for them and for you to teach it. For example, if you're a super user who uses classic Google Sites, the limitations may be annoying. But if you're coming in for the first time, you'll say like, wow, I can do this and it looks great. And it serves the purpose well for an ePortfolio. If you look at the link at the bottom here, you can go and read a lot more information on the different features of the classic and new sites if you'd like to on your own. I also have the QR code you could use there. We're going to go through the implementation phases again. You first need to plan and prepare. What type of ePortfolio? You need to plan your website pages and your links offline. guess who didn't really do that? Me, when I set up the template. So when I went to go, I had a general idea, but I didn't have the exact activities. And I would like add something and then decide, oh, no, 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 I want this one, and I'd have to go remove it. And if I had planned it ahead of time, it would have taken me less time in the end. You want to create, I call it a template. It's not a template. It's going to be a template only for your students. And you need to duplicate your template. The reason is when you duplicate your template, you're making a backup copy. I always like to have a backup copy. And then you want to ensure that your students have the skills they need. The number one most important skills, I believe, are those mouse skills. Google, the new Google Classic site uses a lot of drag and drop down menus, and scrolling. And students will get frustrated if they're not good with their mouse skills. The basic computer navigation is also important because they have to go to their Google Drive. Now maybe they don't have any folders in their Google Drive, then it won't be an issue. But if they've created folders, they're going to have to navigate to those folders and get in those folders and things like that. So that's why I would definitely say basic computer navigation is important. Mouse skills, though, are very key to using this site. Here's some ideas for offline planning. You know, you could sketch it out, paper and pencil, or you could use sticky notes and just stick it on a piece of like big paper, the chart paper, or on your whiteboard. You could use index cards and lay them out on a table. Whatever works for you. But I call that offline planning. Some people like to use Inspiration if they have it at their schools. It's like a flow chart kind of program. And you can do that too, but I find it easier to just do it offline. Yeah, I like the flip chop with stickies. It's real easy. Or your whiteboard, if you have one that you can use. Okay, portfolio planning. These are some questions you might ask yourself. Now, I don't know how big this is on your screen, but when you get this as an actual PowerPoint file, you will be able to go in, and if you'd like, you could copy this image and stick it in Word and expand it, or you could print it out full size. I could not give you electronic copies of these because this is from Barbara Baird, and I know Anne-Marie knows her. She's with El Paso Community College, and she did an excellent training for both the central grade, and she's done it for it used to be these centers throughout Texas that had training for adult education, and she did one with portfolio planning. It was not electronic, but the questions, except for technology, are right on. So I recommend, these are some great questions. If you, and I've got the other questions that we went through last week too, but these are real good. I wanted to share that with you. Phase 2 is the student offline introduction. I like to introduce the concept. I might be online showing students, but they're not online with me. Then I like to show them samples and expectations, and then the reflection. For some students, that might be the most difficult part of this all. So you need to make sure you show an example of that. You can get them to create sample work to demonstrate something. Do it together with them. This is definitely the modeling, and I do, and then the we do, where you're doing it with them. And then assist them. Let's say they did 2 activities or a revision. What are you going to put up on your portfolio? And then assist them with that reflection. And so they have everything done offline before they go with you online to put it on the computer. And you don't have to do it like this. If your students are very techie and comfortable, you wouldn't need to. But most adult ed students I've worked with, and teachers, to be honest, I would do this way. Okay. Here's some ideas for self-reflection. Again, these are all from Barbara Baird. You could copy the images off the portfolio and expand them, print them out, and just give them to your students like this, or you would have to retype them. I don't have them in electronic format. But here's a little entry strip for a portfolio: name, date, assignment title, what I learned. And I selected this. Now, this was about ELA and a lot of writing. So I selected this writing for my portfolio, but you could substitute. I selected this activity or whatever you're working on. The writer's choice, again, is just a different type of reflection. You and your teacher chose this piece together. In other words, why did you choose this? And I could make it better. And I really like that I can make it better. Sometimes you're putting stuff up that you won't make it better. It's okay, but sometimes it's a rough draft, and how can you make it better? And they have an idea box there that's nice, like the person stayed on topic. They had it's just a writing checklist. Again, if you're not doing writing, you would have to modify this. But a lot of what you put in your portfolio, if it's not video, it's going to be writing. So, or math, you might have math concepts, but you still might have some explanation that's going to be written. Need to get through this. Here's some more ideas for self-reflection. I'm not going to go through all these because I want to get into the demos, but do you see how much? Lots and lots of ideas for questions to help you with your students with self-reflection. From Barbara Baird. I can't get my next slide. Okay, questions for your reflections. I have more ideas. This is from the same author that I showed you before, the Portfolio Transitions. She just had some questions there. It's a link right there at the bottom if you want to go see the page. But I like these too. They're very general, very adult. The online introduction, we're going to kind of go through these things right now, but this is the most important things that I would recommend that you do with your students as they first get online. And not all of this needs to be done the first time they're online either. Okay? We're going to go through now after Phase 4, and we're going to be going through some of those. Phase 4 is the maintenance and feedback, and one of the things I give you here are some examples of rubrics, and you really need to make it essential and important to your instruction, these ePortfolios, because if you value it, they will value it. And provide time in class and specific assignments that they need to do. Just don't say, okay, there's some free time if you want to work on your portfolio. I'd be like, no, you need to work on your portfolio. If you don't need to make a change, you need to partner and pair and together with somebody else go through each other. So they need to be very important. Here's feedback using rubrics. I know a lot of you probably use rubrics. This link right here goes to something called, it's just a information sheet on what a rubric is. And it's a nice little information sheet that you can, it's the same thing that I show there, but it's like 2 pages instead of 1 page. The next one, I give some sample rubrics, again from Barbara Baird. And I also gave a link to a rubric that I found on RubyStar that's kind of appropriate for portfolio assignments. It's for the whole portfolio, actually. But if you've never used RubyStar for teachers, it takes a long time to find something you want. However, it has a lot of information, and you can use it to create rubrics if you want to. But this is just an example you can go to and look at if you want some more ideas for rubrics of how to evaluate individual activities or the portfolio as a whole. And again, with students, adults, I would have them do a lot of self-evaluation. Okay, here's your how-to resources. The Google Sites for Beginners. This is the site I actually was thinking of showing you. It's a video, and it also is a print-based with a lot of images that goes along with the video. And I like this because you can print it out and students can refer to it while they're on the computer. Most of our students are not going to be able to look at a video at the same time, like splitting their windows or splitting a screen. So that's a real nice resource to use with your students. The next one is called G Suite Learning Center, Get Started with Sites. It's for Google, new Google Sites. It's a little more comprehensive and it's very clear. Again, it has images and everything's very mapped out. So after you see my demos and you're like, I don't remember how to do this, well, go to these 2 sites and you'll get everything you want. You can find lots of tutorials on YouTube video as well, but I like these 2 the best. I looked at some others, but with these 2 you're going to get the basics that you need. Okay. The demos I'm going to show you right now, I want to show you how to duplicate the site or how to create it from Google Drive. I want to show you how to change the theme and font, edit the page header. We're going to work with the themes. You see how they're kind of created? And then the insert is another major button. I'm going to go through inserting content and what they call page layouts, which is a real different thing that I wasn't used to. But it's not that hard, and you don't have to use page layouts, which is interesting. The pages, you need to know how to go in and edit the page properties, such as renaming the page and then adding subpages. You also can rearrange the page order. Finally, there's sharing, where you can share it just like any other Google Docs. You can make it private just to you. You can share it with particular people by putting in their Google account or their Gmail emails, or you can actually have them edit, which is what you're going to do with your students, so they can duplicate your original site. They would actually be editors, but they would immediately duplicate it. Or you can just let them view. And I recommend that you just let students view the template after everyone has duplicated. You take them off as editors because you don't want them changing it by accident. Does that make sense to everyone? I have something and I shared it with everybody else and they can make changes. The first thing they're going to do is duplicate it, rename it, and then the next day I'm taking them off and they can't touch that website anymore. That way they'll use theirs. Okay?
Denise, I want to check before we move on if there's any questions. Go ahead and, you can unmute your phone. Is this a good time for questions before you move real quickly to the next part, or do you want to wait? Okay, so does anybody have any questions, or do you want to unmute your phone and ask a question? You can. Let us know. Okay, I think we're good. So we're all good. Just give me a hands up, everybody. I want to make sure that we're still with us here. Make sure that okay, good. All right, thank you, Danielle.
Okay.
Mark, okay, good. Okay, I think we can keep going. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go through now and go to what it would look like if you've got your sample invitation and you go and duplicate it, and then we'll kind of go through all of these items. I got to share my screen again. Give me a little time here. Go to my Google Chrome. Anne Marie, I do have a question for you. If I make my screen on I'm sharing my screen, I make it smaller, are they going to see it smaller?
Well,
it's just Google Chrome.
We're only seeing part of the screen right now. I'm not sure I know what you mean.
Well, I needed to have my PowerPoint to look at while I'm doing this. I didn't think about this till right now. But can y'all see my email right there? That's what I was trying to show you.
We can see part of it. We can see
part of it.
Not,
okay. Yeah, and I can scroll down a little bit, down and up, because I can see my email, and it's called Sample AEL College and Career ePortfolio Invitation to Edit. So you would be sending your design that you want your students to use or to work from to all of your students using their Gmail accounts. Now, this might take a while if you have a big class, but the first thing you probably need to do is to make a text-based or some kind of list of all of your emails for your class. If you're using Google Docs a lot, you're going to have this anyway. But this will take time to actually type all of their emails in unless you already have them typed up somewhere and you can copy and paste. They're going to get this email. And in class, you need everyone to go and check. And it tells you right there that they need to go here, how to get there, but what you're going to want them to do is to put the open. If they're in their Gmail account, they're already signed in and will be able to see the site. So if they're checking it with their Gmail account, it will automatically work. If they're checking this with that, and that's what you emailed them, so you shouldn't have an issue when they open it. And when they open it, it should immediately open the sample site. Does everyone see that sample site? You should see where it just says has a picture of the book, Sample AEL Portfolio, and you see Publish at the top, and on the right-hand side, you'll see 3 headings: Insert, Pages, and Themes. The first thing you're going to get your students to do, because remember, you're sharing this with them, you want them to copy it, and then you don't want them to touch your copy anymore. So they're going to go to the 3 buttons. Teach them that 3 buttons often means more. When you highlight over it, it says more. So you click on the More button, and it will have a duplicate site. They need to click on the duplicate site, and here you want them to rename it. It will automatically say copy of whatever the name is, but you're going to see all of their copies on your Google Sites because you are the owner, which is great. You can always see your students' sites because you're the owner. But you want them to put their name. So student first and last name, okay? That's super important. Now, whatever they call it, if they just want to say ePortfolio, that's fine. But be sure it has their name and what other title you want them to do. All they got to do is change the name, and they just need to click OK right here. I'm not going to do this. It takes about 3 minutes to 5 minutes to duplicate the site. And I'm not going to do it because I've already duplicated this several times. But all I would have to do is do OK. I know 2 people. I know Ashley's done it. I don't know if anybody else duplicated it. But it is a very simple process, as you saw. So they go to where? The More, the 3 dots. They click. They go to Duplicate Sites. They change the name. And they click OK. At that point, they're going to go and close everything out, and they can go back into Google Sites. Now, when they go back into Google Sites, the easiest way to get there for me, and I'm going to show you that. Let's say I go over here. Instead of going to their email again, you don't want them to go to their email again because they would go to your site that you created for them. You want them to see their site. All I tell them to do is just put Google Sites in the search bar. And when it comes up on Google Sites, they click on Google Sites. They can bookmark this if they'd like, but I am lazy. I just type Google Sites every time. Now, when it opened it up, it opened me up in the new Google Sites, and these are all the ones that I have. It's owned by anyone. You can also see owned by me. I own all of my sites, but somebody else could own it and share something with me to work on, and that's the difference in that drop down. If you've done Google Classic Sites, the first time you open this, if you were in Classic Sites, it will open in what's called Classic Sites. It looks like this. Just those people who have done this before with the old. It looks like this, okay? And you'll notice it's not the same. Not all of them are the same. I was playing around. So my new Google Sites are actually separate sites, and they have to go to this little new Google Sites link. Most of your students probably don't have classic Google Sites, but if they do and they see this screen, they have to go to new Google Sites, and then they will see the site that they duplicated. So now I'm on my Google Sites. They would find the one like that has their name, like Denise Annette Guckertz, for example. I duplicated this and renamed it to my name. So this one's called Denise Annette Guckertz. Okay. Now notice it still says sample on the title, and here it says Denise Annette Guckertz. That's right, but I got to change this. So the first thing I'm going to have them do, probably if I was working with them, I would just have them put their name here by clicking in the text box and just editing it. Then after they do that, just so they have their name there, the next thing you're going to work on is the themes. The themes, there's not a lot of choices. but it's still fun to play with. They can go through and click and see if they like a different theme better. Obviously, I chose the theme I liked best, but they may like a different theme, and they're welcome to choose that. It changes the font, and show them how when they change this, they have font styles. For example, I have bold, modern, and they may like one of these other font styles, or classic. They also can change the highlight color. You see this color right now is blue. If I change this to purple or green, do you see how it changes the color on the bar there? If I click the little button here, it gives me all of the colors in the rainbow. So they actually can choose any color they want to be that highlight color. They don't have to stick with these colors. I like the blue, so I'm just sticking with the blue there. So the themes are limited, but they work, okay? After they've gotten the theme and changed it if they like, I'm going to do simple font style. I like light usually. Okay, I'll just keep it there. Okay, at that point, what they can do is they might want to change this. Like, to me, it looks too big. So they need to learn how to edit text boxes. This is a text box, and here's selecting a text box, right? When I select it, I could double click, and I can just click inside. If I click on it once, it gives me this little pop-up image that has delete or edit, and either works fine. I usually double click. It's easier for me. Right now, title is the style. If I want to change that, I can select it with my mouse and make it smaller by choosing heading. You see how much smaller that is? And I actually like that better, personally, so I'll keep heading with this particular template. There's a funny little thing right here. Do you see the little thing with stars in the corner? I had to look that one up. I wasn't sure what it was. When this is here, it means the program automatically adjusts for readability. The background image I have here is one that I chose that they provide. And if I choose a different image or a different, let's see if I'm diplomat. No. There are a couple of styles that have black as the color. Let me see if I can find the black. What happens if you have black text, you're going to have a problem reading some of the if I had black text, it might be more difficult to read. The Google Drive, what it does is it automatically changes the image so it's darker or lighter so it contrasts with your text. If you don't want it to do that, you can turn it off or you can turn it back on. So if it comes really grayed out and you don't like it and it's ugly, always go over here and click on this and see if you like it better without it adjusted. That's all that does right there. It's a toggle on and off. Here is where your students can select an image. They can upload their own image, but I would not recommend that because they need to create an image that's the correct dimensions. So for now, we just select an image from what's provided. There's not tons of choices, but again, they could put whatever fits them best. Some of these to me are just really boring, but maybe I'll do gray clouds. Some of them are more interesting, so they can select and they can change their background. Notice, adjusting for readability. So what it did right now, it changed my text automatically to black because I put a light colored background. That's what that automatic readability does. Okay? Now, the last thing you want to do up here is look at your header type. You can choose the size of this. You can choose to only have a title if you don't want any background images. You can use to have the regular banner size. You could choose the large banner, you see that? Or they call it a cover. It's about the same. I really have not noticed a difference between cover and large banner. But I usually choose banner. I like the banner the best. It's an image, but it's not too much of the page with the image. So I'm finished with that page. I'm finished with the header. The header is this top part. Now notice over here, it's really important, all these little, whenever you select anything, on the left you get choices. Just show them to always look on the left and be careful. They don't want to be deleting things. If I hit this delete, oh no, I deleted it. Well, nicely they have an undo arrow up here, and I can just bring it right back. Okay? I have other things that we want to go into. Let's now go into the body. This is called the header at the top. This is the body. Now, when they first get your page, if it's a template, you may have something already in here. This blue color, now that I changed the top, this is called the section. This right here is a section. If you go over here, it'll say section background. Well, I don't like this blue color anymore. I want a different color. So I can go, I don't have a lot of choices. I can do emphasis 2, which is this dark blue, or I could do emphasis 1, which is a gray. I think I like emphasis 1 better, so I'm keeping emphasis 1. Students can choose emphasis 1, emphasis 2, or none. None gives just a white background. So here's emphasis 1, okay? Another thing you could do here, if you click on this whole thing, you could delete the whole thing. You see that? It was kind of a group. I can undo just like that. Now, students need to get good at selecting. If they only want to change the text box or delete the text box, do you see how this is actually two separate objects, an image and a text box? So if students want to work on the text box, they need to click just on this part. They can choose the size. Maybe I want it smaller. They can choose to change the link. Right now it goes to self-exploration. What happens on these when they choose to change the link, they need to, again, scroll. Scroll is important. They'll see all the possibilities right there, and they just have to click on it and apply. That's all the sites within the website that they can link to. Also on they have a more button. Oh, see, I accidentally moved something with my mouse. So what do? Undo. That's it. So now I go to the other choices here. There's not a whole bunch you can do. You just can get to that point. Now over here, I want to show you something else you can do. You can, let's say I wanted a button instead of a text box. Okay, so I'm going to take my text box off. Now, if I accidentally selected the whole thing and I do delete, it's going to delete. If I do this delete, it's going to delete the whole section. You see that? If I do the next delete, this one, it's going to delete this whole group. That's not what I wanted either. So what I want is just to select this text box, and the delete is over here. I think that's one of the most difficult concepts, is that they're going to have to watch where the controls are for each object. Now that I deleted that, though, I want to add a button. So I'm going to go back over to Insert again and scroll down until I get to a button. And the button's going to be called Self-Exploration. And here I can choose my link. Again, I want to go to my page called Self-Exploration that I've already set up, and I insert it. It's too little, so what do? I just drag and drop it so it fits. And if I want to move it, I select, and I can just drag and drop up there. Isn't that nice? So now you have buttons. I think they look even better. The next thing I want to show you real quickly is just to add a divider if you'd like. A divider just is a way to divide your page up. So let's say I wanted, Oh, I didn't want
Denise,
to do
I'm sorry. Just
that.
jump. I'm going to jump in here for just a
Yeah.
minute. We have 4 minutes left, but
Oh, okay.
we started 3 minutes late. So can everybody stay until 12:33? Would that
Yes.
be all
Okay.
right?
Great. Great. Okay.
Is that
Okay.
okay with everybody? Heads up. Is that going to be
Yeah.
okay? Let me
Good.
know.
Thanks.
All right.
We have a hand raised. That's a yes or okay. 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 So I just wanted to show you. These are the dividers that you can add. You can drag and drop them between sections if you'd like to. I just wanted to show you that option. Now the other thing I want to show you on these is, let's say I don't want to do this. I want to do something totally different. Well, I can delete this whole section if I'd like, and I can go ahead and do a different page layout. The layouts are something I had never seen before working with web pages. They are optional. You do not need to use them, but they do organize your page. If I only wanted 2 main sections to go to, I might choose this one, and it automatically would put in 2. When I click here on the plus button, it tells me, do I want to upload from my computer, which is only for images? Do I want to select an image, which will be selecting from my Google Drive or from an online link? One of the nice things about this is that you can actually search for an image. It says results shown are labeled for commercial reuse with modification, which means they should be able to use these. So if I want to do EPortfolio and put a picture in, you can actually search the web right there and just put a picture in and click on it. Like, I don't know if I like any of these pictures, but anyhow, so you could just click on the link and select, and it would put that picture there for you. Okay.
Denise,
Yes.
we have a question, and I
Yes.
think it's an important one, and let's
Yes.
clarify. Ashley, technology standards. Do you mean the adult education, the Texas AEL content standards? Are you talking about the ITSE standards? Which standards are we talking about? Because I think you guys mentioned adult ed. Okay, so technology standards, there is no technology standards in the content standards. Is there, Denise? Now there's financial literacy.
I tell you what they do say. There are, in the ELA, English Language Arts, students do need to be able to create a word processing document and be able to edit it. That is included as a skill under English Language Arts under the writing. Throughout both the ESL and the English Language Arts, they need to use a variety of sources, including electronic resources and multimedia resources. So they need to do research and include sources that are online. But other than that, there's not any specific technology requirement. Math, there is one where they need to use spreadsheets on one place. I looked real carefully through all those.
Yeah, because she was involved with the standards. Ashley, for the English Language Arts, when Denise talks about where, using a variety of sources, and that's going to be one of your last standards in ELA. It's one of the more advanced ones. So when you're looking at your standards for ELA and you're looking at the substandards, look at the ones farther down. I'll see if I can find it for you, okay? And then as Denise said, look in your math too. But technology is not specifically mentioned, but as Denise said, it's kind of sprinkled throughout. It's a sprinkling.
Yeah, digital literacy is required also on the RFP. Like all students have to receive digital literacy as part of classroom instruction, even though it's not stated like that on the standards.
This would definitely apply.
Oh, this is great. Yeah. Math, yeah, Let me go, can we move? I just want to show you on pages before we end.
Yes,
I want to go and click on when you see we did the insert. We saw how we can insert the different things. I haven't gone through the text, the image, the embed, and from Drive because I'm going to show you the easiest way for students to insert. I'm going to go to the pages. As you can see here on the pages, you click on it and it pulls the page up. So let's just start with self-exploration. I have here the template I created. The 3 dots mean more. Students need to know this because this is where they can change the page properties. Okay, I mean they can change the name if they need to, and they might need to change names sometimes. And very important, this is the only place they can add a sub-page directly. So they can add a sub-page, they can name it whatever they need to, and this puts a page underneath. You see that? Career exploration, and then it has a new subpage. If you did this on career exploration, you would want, when you go up to your top bar under career exploration, there will be a drop down automatically put in the navigation to that new subpage. That's a really nice feature, so you don't have to manually do that. The other thing I wanted to show you about pages is that you can hide them from navigation. You can make any page a home page, which is the initial page students hit. I don't think they'll be using that one much. The thing I wanted to show you on here is the drag and drop, which I find a little difficult. You can drag and drop the order. You see these, again, I said they have to be really good at drop-down menus and dragging and dropping. Let's say I wanted thinking skills to go somewhere else. I can drag and drop it. It went under new subpage. I want it to go over here. Now you see how it's even with career exploration. Maybe I want training and career plan to be, oh, I don't want it there. I'm going to drag and drop it. I want it above my self-exploration. As I move this, I just want you to notice the thing that changes here is the navigation at the top. So students may not be doing that much of this, but at first, but you might, so just wanted to let you know on that. When you're in a new page, let's go to this new subpage, I want to show you how to add content. All they have to do is double click. Just any free space. They can't double click within an object, but any free space, they double click. They can go put in an image like I did before from their Google Drive or from online. If the image is on their computer, they can go to upload, but only images can be uploaded, okay? So let's say I just uploaded something right there. Again, I can drag and drop it wherever I want. If I want to click on it, I go to more. I can add a caption, alt text, and I can always replace it with something else. It's another really nice feature, okay? I'm trying to think if there's anything else I just wanted to show. Oh, when I'm double clicking again, I want to show you the embed. The embed lets you put a URL, but you notice there's nowhere to go. So let's say you have a YouTube video, you already need your URL so you could copy and paste it here. That's something students will need to work on. Or there's a website like TexasCareerCheck.com. Is that it? Yeah. So I love how you can embed websites. That easy. Look at it. It does a beautiful job of that. Okay? And when you click on it, it's already got the link so they can click on it. The last thing that I haven't told you about are these text boxes. Let's say I wanted to add another text box here. I double click, and in the very middle, I just put a text box. And I type my text, and I can choose the size. I can go, I don't really like it that size, but I'll put subheading. at that point, I can't do a lot. I can center. I can just change the centering. I can resize it, which is nice. I also can insert a link. So if I want that text to have a link, I can do that as well. I like buttons a lot instead of text box with links since it's available, but they can always do text. So I know we're out of time. I think I did go through everything that I really wanted you to see, moving the pages, how to insert different content, the page layouts. You can insert them. If you don't like them, delete them, duplicating. Oh, the backgrounds. Remember I showed you how you could change colors there. Anytime they see a gear or the 3 dots, they're probably going to get some settings. You see this right here? This just tells you what you need to, what you can show. So every single object has its own little options, and that's what they need to kind of get familiar with. But overall, it's super easy for students to use compared to the old Google Sites. And Mark has a question, and then we need to wrap up.
Yep, and I think Mark had okay, I'm not sure if Mark had a question. Did you see it?
It said
in the chat
Mark's
pod?
hand was up.
Oh, he may have just, Mark, do you have a question? And then Shantae has her hand up too. Did you have a question, Shantae, or did you just have your, oh, she just had her hand up. Okay, one thing I do want to share as we wrap up, because we're almost 10 minutes after, and thank you so much, everybody, is that I did find the content standards that you want to look at, and I actually found one. If you have the content standards book, it's going to be on page 17 or 18, and there's a sub-area actually for writing, where this would apply to, Denise. Number 7, when use available digital and web-based resources such as publishing software, graphics programs to produce and publish written work. So that would be one. And then the one that you really want, Ashley, is going to be sub-area I.5 for research. And that was what Denise was talking about for, was looking at for, using the websites, and that's going to be A and B. Okay.
The only thing I just realized, it's super, I just want to show you real quick, I didn't go over sharing. It's just like with Google Docs. The little people sign is always up here. You can change, right now, I don't have this with anybody shared, but if I invited you and I put you as an editor, you could duplicate this and use it as your own. If I put you only as to view, I could make this private only within my classroom for people to see. So these are the 2 big options, and you might want to click notify people so they know that they have it. When you invite them, it automatically will notify them. Okay? So the sharing is a really cool feature of this too. So I hope that you guys get to use this. If you have some thoughts, email me if you have questions, and also email me if you have any sample portfolios. I'd love to share them in the future with other people. And sorry I ran a little over.
That's all right. Denise, what I'm thinking is maybe after the first of the year, you could come back and do another Tech and Tell and walk us through how to do this from the beginning to set up, I think, a part 3. So I am doing this in November, so you'll be likely hearing from me. What are you doing, Ashley? Are you doing this for class? I'm curious.
Here, let me just talk.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to do it for Transitions Month.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I've already
awesome.
it's because I was actually talking to Denise last week to understand, so I've already started the lesson, but I'm planning on starting it almost next week or the week, the week after.
Yay, wonderful.
So I'm really excited.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, good job. Okay, everybody, I still think that you need to come back. What do you think, guys, for a part 3 possibly on kind of walking through this from the beginning in? Again, what do you think?
I would like to. I didn't tell you, Anne-Marie, but I thought it probably would be better as a 3-part because Google Sites, I mean, it's pretty easy. I would love people to get on it and just try it And then you're going to have really good questions.
But in order for us to do this, we'll have to, I want them to think about creating a portfolio. So we'll keep talking about, we'll talk more about this. You guys have been wonderful. We've kept you now over 11 minutes. Denise, thank you so much. Always phenomenal. I like to say I'd like to live in your brain for about a week, and I can't even begin to imagine what I would learn. And all of you, it is Friday, and I just appreciate you hanging in with us, and it's always wonderful. And Vicki, Ashley, Dashelle, Mark, I know I'm forgetting some people. Vicki, I see Claudia. Claudia, you joined us late, so welcome. Diane. And everybody, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope it's a beautiful day wherever you are. Have a great weekend. Like I said, Denise, you are a rock star, and we're gonna send it out, everybody, because I know we all got to go back to work. So take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time. And actually, let me hold on. Don't anybody hang up yet, please. Ashley Winkle is going to be with us next week. She is starting a 3-part series on something called Actively Learn. And it's a reading resource, but that's an understatement. It's going to be a part 3. It's going to take us through November and part of December. And I actually will be co-presenting with her on part 3 as we talk about this resource for students with learning disabilities. So hang on. Registration is going to be available in the PD portal soon. And I hope to see you all on. So, okay, we're done, and we are out. Take care, everybody, and have a wonderful weekend. Thanks, Denise. Take care.